Okay guys, we're going to set up a registration area. We're fleshing this application out over time, and it's interesting to go through the process. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy talking about it. So let's create a link down here that says register, and that'll take us to a registration form. So I'll open up my project. I'll go to Views, Home, Home View, and down here, let's say right below the form, we'll do an anchor, href equals site URL, and we'll type in register. And where do we want that to go? Let's take a look at our controllers. Let's go to the user controller. Okay, and the user controller has a login method, but this is more so called as an API call. And what I mean is, if we go back here, this login form, it posts to, let's go to the top, right here, the site URL, it posts to user login. It's not actually loading a view. So what this link is going to do is it's going to take us to the home/register, okay? So home/register. But I want our API call to be the user class, because that's more logical. So home, let's open up the home controller, and what do we got here? A bunch of junk. So I'll say public function register, and I'll copy these guys and paste them there, and I'll say register view. So make sure you have register typed correctly. Sometimes it's easy to make a typo with. Next, in views under home, make sure it's under home, we'll create a new PHP file, and it'll be called register_view. Okay, and I'm going to open my home view to get some stuff out of it. I'll just copy it all. I like to do this a lot because it's quicker. And then I'll paste it all in here, and let's see what we have. So for the form, this login form, I'm going to see where it's being used. It's being used down there. So I'm going to press Control H, which is find what and replace. Well, it's really find and replace. And I'm going to change this to register form, replace all. Okay, it just replaced 2 copies, but sometimes it's useful. And for here, the action of our form is going to be user/register. Okay, they're going to have a login that they choose. They're also going to have an email, so we can copy this chunk, and with NetBeans I'm just going to hold Control Shift and press down, and I'll change this to email and email. They're going to have a password, and we want them to confirm their password, so I'll do the same thing. I'll say confirm password and change the name to confirm password. And make sure all your names line up with what they are. So confirm password, password name, email name, and login name. Okay. And instead of the submit button being login, this should be register. Okay. And we can get rid of this little URL down here. Well, let's change it back to back. And we'll just go to the home page like that. And right now we're not doing anything with this just yet. So I'll go back, I'll refresh, register, and now we choose a login, email, password, confirm password, and when we click this, it should do nothing. That's exactly what we want to happen. So this takes us to the model, or sorry, the user view. Let's close out a couple things first. I'm going to right click this and close other. So I just have one thing open. Close this out. Move this over a little bit. I'll just close it for now because it's a little messy. So I'll open the user controller, and we have this login method, and this might sound crazy, but I'm actually going to duplicate this method. And again, I just highlighted it, press Control Shift and down, and I'll change this to register. So we have a login. I'll duplicate this line with Control Shift down. I keep reminding you, but it's really useful. I'll put email here, and password here, Oops, this is confirm password. I apologize. Okay. So our result is going to be a lot different. So I can get rid of this. And I'm just going to put a die statement here. I'll say not yet ready. Okay. So what I want to do is make sure that this is working. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to open Chrome console with Control-Shift-I. And I'll refresh the page to be safe. Let's go to our network tab. I'll click register. Okay, that called. Not yet ready. And then go to your headers tab and scroll down to form data. Let's just fill in some junk data. Make sure all those fields are filled in. Looks good. Okay. And next, we're going to actually insert the data in the database. And I know what you're thinking, hey, we got to validate this data, buddy. And we will do that. But let's hold our horses just right now. So we're automatically loading the user model. So that's available to this whole class. So right here I can say this user model insert, and just to make sure, I believe it's extending CRUD. The user model it extends the CI model. We didn't make our CRUD model yet. That's a little secret. It accidentally slipped. Insert data. So this just inserts into the user. It's hard coded in here. So I'll say insert. And we also want to double check that we have these database tables. I always like to double check things because I'm weird. So here's our user table, login, password, and email. Beautiful. So I'll say login is login, password is password, and email is email. It doesn't matter what order you put it in. And I'll say user ID equals that because it returns the user ID. Let's echo that out. Now before I go on a rampage, I want to grab this hash here. Remember how we're hashing passwords? When we create a user, we want to hash it to what we're doing so that we can log them in the same way. And it just so happens password matches password. Okay, so if I look at my database here in the data, I just got some guys named Jethro, and I'll go to my dashboard and I'll register, and let's see the response. ID of 14, and we have our die statement, so it says not ready. And here's our login and our email. So that's all fine and dandy. We don't want to do this just yet. We want to do a validation. And CodeIgniter has something called a form validator. And let's see if it's in here in our autoloader. So I'll go to config, autoload, form validation. Just make sure you have form validation in here in your autoload libraries. Make sure you get it right because I always get it confused with validator, but it's validation. Okay, T-I-O-N. And what we're going to do is going to say this form validation set rule, and we're going to set rules for I think every one of these. So boom, boom, boom. And the first parameter we pass in is the field here. So I would say login. The second parameter is the display of it. So I'll type in capital login. So if an error occurs, it's going to be a capital L. And then the requirements here, which I'll get to shortly. We'll do email, password, and I'm actually going to open up the CodeIgniter docs. So here's how I search for it, CI form validation, and it gives you something real easy to use. And let's go to down a little ways. Here we go. This is how we run it. We do this form validation run. and if it's false, then it has problems. And there's a way to get errors out of it also, but that's going to bring us to our next video. But let's go ahead and do this. So I'll say if this form validation run, make sure that's a function with your braces there, equals false, then we're going to output a problem. So I'm going to put this set content type, I guess I'll put it at the top, because we're pretty much always going to output that for this JSON call. Now let's copy their little output guy here, because this was a pain in the butt to write, and we'll say false. So first let's set some rules, and I'll open the docs. Let me go all the way to the top, and they have where are those? Rule reference right here. Okay, and there's a lot of them, but it's not a big deal. I'll show you what is pretty useful. So login, this will be required, and then you use a pipe to add another rule. So our logins, let's say the shortest name someone can have is 4 characters. We'll say min underscore length, and then in square brackets 4. We'll do another argument. Max length is, how about 16, just so that it's not all crazy. And we'll copy this. Now for the email, we don't have to be so picky about it. We have to just do valid email. And for password, we'll do required. Min length, let's say 6. No, we'll just do 4, keep it simple. And max length will be 16. If you want to change it, that's okay too. Now, we also want this, whoops. We also want this to match the confirmed password. And we also want email and login to be unique. If I go to the reference here, there's something called is unique. And it's really beautiful. Is unique, the table dot field. And here's how we do it. For the email, I'll say pipe is underscore unique. Then the table, let me open my database, user dot login, meaning I only want one of those per each guy. So I'll say user dot login. So there can only be one guy with that exact login. For the, oops, this has to be email, sorry. And we'll do the same for the login. So is unique user dot login. Okay. And then for this one, there's also one for matching. Where is it? Matches right here. So all we have to do is matches and pass in confirm password. Because you remember on our page, the name of this guy is confirm password, and this document says the form item, so it's confirm password. So I'll say matches confirm password. Okay, so there it is on my screen. You can pause the video if you like, if you need to get the whole gist of that. And it looks like we can get rid of this. So what we're going to do is try it out. Make sure that it is actually causing an error. So let's get rid of email. Go to our network tab, register. Oh, set rule. Looks like it needs to be set rules. Whoopsie daisies. Got a little too excited. Register. Register. And it created a user ID. The reason is because we didn't exit. So if I just do a exit here, I'll do a return false. Then it won't do that. Okay. Now I'm going to try something I'm a little rusty on. I believe it's validation errors. I'm just going to echo that out. Register. Register. And you see how we get all the results we want here. That's nice. Now I'm going to show you how to customize these messages too. If I go to the CodeIgniter docs once again, let me scroll down a little ways. It's called set messages, set rules, There it is. Set message. I always get the plurals confused. Rules and messages. Okay. So let's do this. This form validation set message, and we don't pass in the field name, we pass in the rule. So if it's required, we'd say required for the rule, and then our message, and I'll say only a dog knows you need this. Okay, just to test it out. And we'll go back and test our page out. Register. It says only a dog knows you need this. If we wanted to do one for the email, we could just duplicate this line and we'd say valid email, and we'll say cats don't know how to type. So valid email is the same as valid email right here. These are only for rules, customizing your rules. So I'll put in a bad email, register, and it says cats only know how to type. Now obviously this might not be what you want for your real messages, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those. I don't set custom messages very often. So what we want to do is return our validation errors like this, and in our second parameter we would want a data and our validation errors. So if I go back, register, invalid login, and we see here's all our data here. The problem with this is I can't do much with a string. I mean, I could display it on the page, but I need more flexibility, and that'll lead us into our next class, and we're going to actually extend a library in CodeIgniter to make our life a little easier. Okay guys, it's time to extend an actual CodeIgniter library. So let me do this first. Let's go to our config folder and let's go to config. And we might have to scroll down a ways. I already know what I'm looking for. It's called subclass prefix. And basically this is a prefix we use to extend the CodeIgniter core libraries. And the reason we do this is because if we had a class named form validator and there's one in the core, there's going to be a conflict of interest. So you can change this to anything you want, but I personally like to leave it just by default. If you decide to change it, just make sure you change the name of your class and file name. So we are going to head over to this libraries folder, and it's empty. Let's create a new PHP file. I'm going to call this my. Remember the prefix, and then the name of the class we're extending. Our class was form validation. Okay, and I'll delete this stuff, and we'll say class. And we need to use the same casing we used in the config file, which was a capital My. Remember, if you decided to change yours maybe to your initials or something, go ahead and do that. Just make sure it's in the config. And we need to say my form validation extends CI form validation. Now notice how the V is lowercase. I'm following the same convention as CodeIgniter. Keep it safe. And we're going to need a public function construct so that when it's instantiated, we need to construct him, the regular form validator, so we can inherit all his goodies. And I'll say construct. Now with form validation, you can pass in a configuration value on the construct. I'm not going to go into big details about this, but let's just put config equals array, and down here we'll just pass in config. Okay, so you remember when we were doing our registration, I'll open up console with Control-Shift-I, and I register, and our data is all this in paragraphs. I want an array of errors because it'll be easier to loop through in JavaScript. So let's make another method. I'll say public function error array. I do wish this was included. I'm not sure why it's not. So we'll return this error array. Now I already know internally that CodeIgniter has an error array from this class because I investigated it quite a while back, and I don't know why there's not a getter for it. So we're going to check if it's empty. So I'll say if count this error array is greater than 0, we will return it. And it looks like I missed a parenthesis like that. If count, this is not supposed to be a method actually, this is a property. So don't let that throw you off, because it just about threw me off. And that needs an underscore. So let me pause a minute. I got a little excited and typed that too fast. This is a protected property belonging to the actual core class, not a method. Okay, so make sure you do underscore error underscore array, not a method, so no parentheses, and we're going to return that. Okay, so that's good, and that automatically loads. So I can close him out, and I'll go back to our controllers under user, and register. Here it is. Go to your register function, and when we run it, instead of getting validation errors, we're going to get this form validation error array. So I'll delete here and paste it in there. So let us try again. I'll just register invalid login, and look at that, we have a nice array of data. Let's head back to our thingy here. So we have that working quite nicely, and we want this all to happen before we even handle this post data inside of this form. Now we could even put this down here. We could put the input post login here. I'm not going to do that, and I don't suggest doing that personally. Anyways, let's go to our view, our home, and our register view, and let's see the register form right up here. Let's do a div class equals alert dash error. Okay, and I'm just going to put an HTML tag in here that says dynamic. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to copy this alert there. I almost want to give it a different class name. I'm going to also add in an ID, I think. ID equals register form error. The reason I'm doing this is because if I use jQuery to toggle visibility of this class with alert, if I have more than one alert going on, maybe in the future, I'm going to have some serious problems. So an ID will solve that issue. So to the bottom of the page, my friend, and the first thing we want to do is hide it. So let's hide it like that. Make sure you include your £sign. Okay, and instead of an alert here, what we're going to do is dot show, and we're also going to add HTML to it, and we have to build a loop. So I'll say for var I equals 0, I is less than O dot, and here's where it comes in. Let's go to the page, and right now I have data. I kind of want to pass that as an error tag rather than a data tag. So I think we'll change that in the user, because data sounds like it's something good. Okay, so error dot length I plus plus, and let's see, we can make our own elements in here. I'll do a UL, so I'm going to make a var called output equals UL, and I want to make sure I type it right. and then output is the end of the UL. Make sure you don't put var in front of any other output. And since I want to append to this, I'm going to put plus equals. Okay, so now I'll say output plus equals o.error I. Now, this is not a correct loop, and I'm going to show you why. So we'll refresh the page. Since we updated the JavaScript, we have to. It's empty. And the reason being is because if we actually look at this, this is an object. Even though we passed it as an array, it's coming back as an object because it has a key value pair. When it has a key value pair, it can't be enumerable. I hope that makes sense. So we have to do it a little bit differently. We have to do a for loop still, but we'll say for I, we'll say for var I in o.error. Let me get rid of this stuff. Okay, and let's say o.error, and then in our brackets I. So this is the key, console.log key, and let's see what we get. And I have to refresh, register, and go to console. It says the login field is required. That's actually the value, not the key. My mistake. So key is I. Key is I. That's right. I is the key. So var key, and value will be o.error key. Sorry about that. So say var value equals that, and let's do output plus equals. We'll do an li tag, and we'll say plus to append it, plus key. Okay, this looks a little crazy. We're concatenating the strings, and then we'll say value. Sorry about that loud noise, it was my ring. And I'll go ahead and refresh the page, register. Oh, we didn't get anything. Did I not we didn't insert it into the DOM. So sorry. So let's grab this guy, and I'll say HTML will be output. Go back, refresh, register, boom, there you have it. You don't have to put in the key there. I did it to show you. So I'll go ahead and get rid of the key. So it'll just be like this. Now what this does is it gives you flexibility to customize your stuff how you want. Okay, so let's go back to the user here. So we got all our errors taken care of. When a user is created, it's going to insert it into here. Okay, and what we're going to do is check if the user ID is successful. So here is user ID. So if there's a user ID, we're going to set the session. We already went over this, and I'll change this value to user ID, and the result is 1, and it returns false. Otherwise it's just going to say result 0. Let me throw something in here that says error on user not created. Okay, so we should be able to get into the dashboard after we register a user. So I'll say my login is Jesse, my email is test@test.com, my password is dog1, and my confirm is dog2. Beautiful, the passwords don't match. Instant validation. So I'll change this to dog1, register, boom, I'm in dashboard. Now I'm officially a user, and log out, and that was Jesse and dog1. Check that out. So if I go to my database, refresh, there's Jesse. Now these are all test rows now, they can be deleted. And now we have our safe little guy there. let me go back to the code and just check one more thing. Result 1, the session set. Okay, let's try another thing. Let's say Jesse, enter. Cool, login field must contain a unique value. Let's try test at test.com. Must contain a unique value. Good. That'll prevent duplication. Isn't that beautiful how easy it is to now validate? I realize you're probably just getting started with all this, so it might seem very confusing, but once you're used to it, it saves you a lot of time, guys. And that'll wrap up this video.